Hello? Somehow
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Water. I just got one project to do, but they send me their plans. And I'm gonna pull a foundation.
Vested interest.
Most instances, running there a while ago.
You probably have a relationship with connection.
Like, well, you're at this, like this or this.
I know when Ray needs to have a discussion, he can go in and it sounds like he have a pretty frank.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's thank you, ma'am. Good. Good. Out. Hi, no, I didn't actually. Oh, okay. More chairs. But I would sure like.
somebody I don't even remember who handed it to me. I was like, oh, I'm sure there's a bunch of these laying around.
I can see.
Yeah, I figured. Oh, yeah.
Because they start changing.
Oh, you're down.
Or
How are you? Yeah, that is, sorry. I put my notes on. Oh, but I didn't mean to. Thank you, sir. No, that's okay.
Thanks for your call.
transfer. Okay.
Hey there, how are you, sir? Good. That's actually, I think somebody else is, yeah, there's somebody else who's planning on getting it. Sorry about that.
You guys are on area over there. Yeah, they were fine, but they're.
Oh, Jim is attending.
John.
And he is attending.
Ooh, yeah, take one for the team, right? I did it once. What do you expect to like stop about here? No, so you just kind of keep going. It's just-
I want everybody to know the car is running. I want them to.
Yes.
All right, everybody, it's 3:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I think we can skip the pledge today, jump right into the roll call, please.
Matt Rivera.
Here.
John Leo.
Here.
Nancy Rondell.
Here.
John Cups.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Any citizens comment for something that's not on the agenda? We're all here for the playground, so we can jump right into the agenda item, which is the Zoran Park Playground.
I'd also like to just mention that Al Deckett is attending via Zoom. He cannot vote via Zoom, he's on Zoom. So Zoom is working, YouTube is working, it's just our screens are not working right now, so there are about 8 or 9 or so people on Zoom. All right, so this is coming for you. The mayor, I call this meeting after some members of the public raised some concerns about the relocation of the Zoran Beach playground equipment from the sand to the grass, as well as about the process of how it transpired. So the goal of this meeting is to review the relocation, the process. That relocation will scheduled to take place next week. Should council want to stop or delay that reinstallation, a member should make a motion to do so, of course, with a majority agreement. Parks Director Rachel Rowe will give a short presentation on the relocation, but I wanted to address a few concerns that I've seen in public comments. I've heard from the public. There have been some insinuations by some members of the public that this was being done without anyone knowing, and it was an overreach by city officials. So mostly for public awareness and public benefit, here is what happened. So in the summer of 2020, the high water caused some concerns for staff about the playground equipment. Parts of it were immersed in the water. This was in 2020. So Parks and DPW removed the playground equipment from the beach. And they wanted to decrease any potential liability risk to children who may be using the playground equipment on the beach, as well as prevent any potential damage to the equipment. So on July 6, 2020, in my city manager's update, I told council that city staff had removed the playground equipment and that it would be reinstalled at a future date. but not in the same area and probably somewhere else on the green space in the park. On April 18th, 2022, Rachel Rowe, Parks Director, gave a presentation to council. It was on the agenda about parks updates and what's happening with parks. In that agenda and that update, Rachel said that playground equipment is going to be moved to a grassy area of Zorn Park. On June 6th, I made an update in my city manager's update. I told council that we had applied for and received a $6,000 grant donation. The donor would like to remain anonymous, so please refrain from using that name if possible, but they get $6,000 to get some equipment to help reinstall that playground equipment on the grassy area. So then there was also 3 Parks Board meetings in the spring and summer of this year where Parks Director Roone updated the Parks Board about playground equipment being relocated to the grassy area, and she asked for their input and advice, and they gave their input and advice, and that's how that happened. So throughout the last 2 years, city staff, management, DPW, and parks discussed the need for relocating it, the placement, the design, the materials, the funding, for shifting that playground equipment from the sandy area to the grassy area. These duties fall squarely within as well as ADA compliance. Once you take out playground equipment, you can't put them back in without adhering to ADA compliance. So funding to restore on the grass was received from the Petoskey Community Foundation through the donor, and staff also consulted with a playground equipment professional regarding the safety location. So I included also under applicable policies and ordinances, some of the governing code that authorizes city staff to go ahead and do this. So the Department of Public Works is charged with design and improvement of parks and public places. That is squarely within their purview, section 2.603 of the city code. Duties of the Parks Board is to assist the city parks director in caring and managing for parks and playgrounds. We follow both sections of those codes, or section of the code. Rachel Rowe, Parks Director, solicited advice from the Parks Board 3 times on 3 occasions and worked closely with DPW in designing and looking at the location for the playground equipment. Also, so there's been some questions about, well, policy decision, is this a council decision versus staff decision? And I just want to break down for the public benefit, because I know council, we did this back in November, and we do it regularly about what is policy making and what is management administration. Council really controls the city through 2 avenues. One is through policy formation. That's policies, ordinances, and resolutions. So an example is an ordinance that I mentioned above, which is vested authority in DPW to design, maintain, manage, implement improvements at parks. That's council giving the authority to create a policy and ordinance to give DPW that purview. Another example is a bench donation policy that we created just a couple months ago this summer. Council agreed that it would be a good idea to have a bench donation policy where people can donate benches and then hand it over authority of placement, acceptance, location of those benches to the parks director. So that's the policy section. As council, we want to see this policy, give it to staff to manage and administer that policy. The second way council controls the city is through the budget. So council approves the budget, approves expenditures. And so, for example, staff cannot make a new addition change to a park without money. So if council would have come to, if staff would have come to council and said, we want to purchase new playground equipment to install at a park, council would either say yes or no. That's how council controls policy. In this case, we did not get new equipment. We did not spend any extra money for doing so other than what was authorized in the budget, because we received most of it through the Petoskey Community Grant. So that is how the two cities' 2 divisions kind of interplay with each other. There's policy making, and then council hires professionals to administer and execute that policy. So I wanted to go over that, and before I hand it over to Rachel to do a little presentation, just want to go over a few public comments that I got, and concerns, which I think some of them are valid concerns, but I just want to address them. One was that this was not on the agenda, and there was no agenda item that said relocation of playground equipment. We usually don't put staff decisions or significant staff decisions on agendas. that's up to staff, and we put that in our directors and our city manager report. We let council know what we're doing from an administrative and management point of view. So most staff decisions you won't see on council on agendas, and that's normal, and that's the process. There's some concerns about losing open space, and the EPA definition of open space includes green space, playgrounds, and public seating areas. So when we say we're losing open space by putting this, we're not really losing open space in really the scientific sense of what open space means. But if I get what people are saying, there's green space that's no longer to be grass. Well, we also have gained an equal amount, or roughly, of beach space that can be used, that's unobstructed, and that is open space now. So there really wasn't a significant change in that. There's also a green space definition that they use in Europe that includes children play areas. So it's not a loss of green space, it's not a loss of open space. One person made a comment about that we need to consider all uses at the parks, and we do. We consider all and how people use the parks, and family use is a predominant use of City Beach and Zorn Park. There's a lot of families there, kids. Also non-families too, right? Some people going there, but it's a heavily family use area. There is no other city-owned playground in downtown or below Main Street. So when we want to look at how everyone is using our parks, we have a lot of space for people to eat. We have space for people to hang out, walk around, picnic, do yoga. We only have one playground, and that is at City Beach Zorn Park. And so if we want to make sure that we have our spaces are utilized, or be able to be utilized by users, we should have a playground somewhere in downtown. And we had one in the playground. It was just removed because of safety concerns. And reinstalling it in the same location is just not an option. It won't meet ADA compliance. It has to be ADA compliant. So those are some of the main concerns I've heard, but I'll pass it over to Rachel now. And you all have your packets. Again, I apologize for the screen not working. It should be fixed by September 9th. So yeah.
Hello. I'm working on for 20. All right. So as you can see, we have the PowerPoint. I won't waste your time with the first slide because it's why the equipment was taken out, which Victor just explained. The second slide, you will see is the reinstall plan. The highlighted area is the green space where the playground equipment will go. You can see it is slated for 63 foot by 44 foot. The highlighted area, Zorn Park, is 22,000 square foot. The playground area is about almost 3,000 square foot. The playground is 12.4% of that highlighted area. It's approximately about 3 to 5% of the green space in the park overall. So that would be the layout. When DPW and I chose that plan, it's because it is close to the sidewalk. It still allows space for families to be in that grass area right off the beach. It allows for if you have more than 2 children or more than 1 child and someone is at the playground and someone is still on the beach, or a child needs to use the restroom, you can see everything from that angle. So as a parent, it is actually the safest place for the playground. We chose to put it also on this side because on the other side of the flagpole in the cannon, if you're familiar with the park, it slopes down. So we would have had to have leveled that area out, causing more cost. So it's the most cost-effective spot for the playground. I know when you go down there, it looks large. If you turn to the next page, you will see the fall zones for the equipment. It's the exact same equipment that was on the beach. We have not added, we have not taken away. Same equipment. As you can see, it's 5 individual pieces. They all need their individual fall zones. The reason for this with the 5 individual pieces versus a unit, which I'll go into later, is it does not block the view as much as a single unit. They'll be spread out in that mulched area. And your wood fiber wood chips will be flush with the surface. We'll excavate down 12 inches and then it'll be wood chipped in. All right, moving on. Sand versus wood chips. Sand is one of the less effective materials regarding impact absorption. In cold and wet weather, sand tends to compact and it creates an unsafe surface. It also is only regulated for a 4-foot fall zone. It does not matter how much sand you put down, it'll always be 4 feet. With wood chips, you can add more wood chips and you can have a higher fall zone. That's how that works. Sand also doesn't meet the American with Disabilities Act's accessibility standards. So if we did reinstall it on the beach and someone were to visit the beach as a visitor, as a resident, and they came to the city with concerns about disability for their child, we would legally have to remove that playground and then make it ADA accessible for standards. The wood chips, again, they meet the ADA standards. If compressed properly, it can be firm enough to technically allow wheelchairs to be used on the surface. It also decreases the risk of splinters. 90% of playgrounds have wood chips on them now, unless they were put in years before the ADA standards came into effect. The next page is proximity to water. I understand this is a concern. We live around a lot of water. We have a bay. It can be dangerous. I understand. Petoskey's Bayfront Park, as you can see, is around the water. Jones Landing, Bear Creek Township, their playground is right next to the beach on the water. Also, this is a great visual for a single unit, which is Bayfront Park, versus individual units, which is Jones Landing. You can see the single unit is much larger and obstructs the view much more than the individual structure. As for the other park events, we took this into consideration. The art show happens in Upper Zorn. It does not hinder that event. There's still plenty of room for any memorial services for 4th of July, Veterans Day, anything like that. We have spoken to the chamber about the annual car show. They're aware they have
You got it.
around.
Did that, and it got me.
Boom.
And then funding, as
Okay.
did have a donor
That's Rachel Thompson.
meeting, who has seen the plan and has decided to graciously fund that project. So those are the facts. Anyone have any questions? Or we'll go to council. Questions?
Covered all the facts pretty well. Good, thank you. Comments or questions here at the table?
I think the layout's just how it should be. Taking everything in consideration.
All right.
I think a lot of good and considered work went into the proposal and the execution.
What I initially saw, I was a little shocked by it, but I think after seeing the design plan, it looks pretty good. You did a good job. Get to the fun part. Little public comment. You have a 3-minute, well, actually, let's see, start. We need your name and address if you're going to speak. You have a 3-minute time limit. You speak to the council, not to the audience. If you speak to the audience, bang the gavel and have Kyle take you out of the room. Well, you only get to speak one time, and let's keep the chatter amongst ourselves to a minute.
Mayor, before I go, Al Dyke sent me a text saying his microphone does not work, so I'll just read what he said on his text really quick before that, if that's okay. He says, I am monitoring on my computer, my mic does not work. I like the playground at the beach. I don't like the place at the park. I think a better place is along the east boundary, does not impact view, frisbee, hacky sack, becomes relatively invisible. Moms will not be able to monitor 2 kids at once. That's okay with me.
I'm sorry, Victor, can you repeat that? I just didn't hear.
A little bit louder. Yeah.
I like the playground at the beach. I don't like the placement at the park. I think a better place is along the east boundary, does not impact view, frisbee, hacky sack, becomes relatively invisible. Moms will not be able to monitor 2 kids at once. That's okay with me. And Rachel did address the reason why I can't go back at the sand if we get an ADA complaint. So.
Okay, who's first? Mr. James.
Great comment, but yes, you could absolutely raise that level. I'm not against the playground. Nobody's against the playground. It's a wonderful idea. But doggone, does it have to be so big and put it either all the way to the east or put it all the way to the west? You're taking out the prime location of that park. And I'm not about green space or not. We have a ton of green space. But the size of this little project, size of this project is way too big. And again, if it goes way west or way east, if you have to grade it, grade it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Verna Miller, 651 Second Street. Roughly, I was thinking this is about 2,500 square feet, but I see it's about 2,700 square feet. And you can look at the pictures this way, but going down there and looking at it, and even though you can say, yes, it does seem large, it is large. It's the size of a house. It's 2,700 square feet. And it is right smack dab in the middle. There's a cannon there, there's the flagpole, there's other things. And when you look at the in person, these are slivers of triangles. And if you go down there on a hot day and families and picnics and all that, you're gonna have maybe 3 people who are gonna have to be on the north side of this 27-foot monstrosity, right bordered up on the sidewalk. Or you can go around it and there's a strip in front or off to the left. These are like little triangles of area. It's going to rob families that park is full. I mean, and it's going to take away, it's where the shady spots are. So grandparents or elderly parent or anyone on a hot day that does not want to be forced into the sand cannot, that's one of the beauties is that you can sit on the grass where your feet don't burn and run to the beach. 2,700 square feet is being lost where people can, where they're gonna have to be forced. That whole area, that many people will have to be forced to sit in the sand where there is no shade if they don't want to. I am not understanding why behind here, City Hall is this beautiful, gigantic green space where 2,700 square feet would be beautiful there, plus huge areas for kids to run. They could have another game, play Frisbee, whatever, the whole area down there, it still would not impact what's going on here. The goal is to get playground equipment below the bluff. Why couldn't it be placed here and leave the park the way it is? My other comment is that it keeps coming up that the lifeguards are babysitters. Well, why won't they have to be babysitters for this? That if it is in their job description that the lifeguards are responsible for babysitting the play equipment, that should be taken out of their job description. That is the parent's responsibility, not the lifeguards. They're into water safety. So right there, that should just be taken off the board, and that's no reason to move a 2,700 square foot because to put in the park because the lifeguards feel that they're being babysitters. But I don't know why it has to be there. Why can't it be down here? I think Jane Beguera brought up a very good point too. It's a beautiful green space down there.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Gretchen Lamarche. I'm a resident of Harbor Springs, live on 481 East 3rd Street. I've lived here in the city for 2 years. I've been in Harbor Springs for 14. I work at McLaren as a nurse, and my husband works at an accounting firm in Petoskey and serves on the sewer committee. We moved to the city of Harbor Springs from our subdivision in Forest Ridge to be part of the community. We wanted to be involved. We wanted to be a part of something and make a difference. I have not been involved in anything yet. I'm in grad school to become a nurse practitioner. We have a daughter who's 12 who goes to public school, and we are very happy here. We moved here from downstate, and my husband used to come here as a resorter and had a family that had a home here. I would like to just mention what Victor said. We had one playground in the city for our children, and that playground is gone. My daughter is 12. She does not go to playgrounds that often anymore, but we had one playground and it is gone. And we have children that live here, and we have reporters that live here who have children. And to not have a playground for children to play on is ridiculous. It's about time that we start thinking about our community and not about others. It's about time about thinking about the children that live here and what they need. I understand that some playgrounds are not beautiful, and I believe that the space down there is beautiful, but a playground was there and it needs to be there for our children and for the visitors who come here with their children. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Dana.
Great, there are a couple of more playgrounds that you might like to know about. There's a big one up at.
Yeah.
I've been there, thank you. It's
Okay.
far away though.
Okay, sorry. I'm here today, Dana Muller, 372 West Summit. I'm here today, not as the chair of the Parks Board, but as a private citizen. just to say that I would like to see us just take a minute and send it back to Parks Board just to see what fine tuning we can to maybe make this really more palatable for everybody. The goals, you know, everybody wants to have a nice playground at the beach for their kids, versatile beach and lawn area at the park, and hopefully a solution that everybody can be happy with. I think we've talked through the whole issue of, you know, green space and, you know, we found a lot of this in our park surveys, that these are things that people value, but they also value families, kids, and playgrounds. So I'd like to see a way where we can make this happen, but maybe just not in such a large obtrusive way. A few of the thoughts I've had on this that could be discussed at Parks Board if we were given, let's say, even another week to discuss it, a special meeting, is to look at how we can reduce the size of the footprint. Like, do we need every single piece of equipment that we had before to go back in? I think it would be nice to maybe move it away from that area by the big tree, so there is more lawn space by the beach, like Maggie was saying, or was saying. You know, a lot of people want to sit in the lawn, they don't want to sit in the sand, and a lot of people need to sit in the shade. So I think we're taking up a big part of that with where it is right now. Scott and I had looked at, you know, even just moving it, you know, back from that tree, just so there would be more of an apron of the lawn along the beach. Let's see, Rachel and I talked a little bit about this and, you know, pros and cons. You know, the newer design playgrounds are one single unit, so they're not so spread out, which dramatically reduces the footprints, leaving more of the green space there. Sometimes they can be bigger and sometimes they can obstruct views more, but that might give us the opportunity then to put it on the east side of the canyon. I don't know if any of these are good or bad ideas, but to just give us a little bit more time to explore this. I take responsibility for us not doing it before. We did have numerous conversations about it being put back in the green space, and everybody said yes, yes, yes. We saw that footprint though, at the same time everybody else saw it, and it is big. And we saw the layout the first time this week. So I don't think any of us on Parks Board really realize the magnitude of this. So we would just like to have one more week, have a special Parks Board meeting and see what we can do to tweak it a little bit to make it more amenable to everybody.
Good. Ma'am in the blue.
My name is Wendy Price. I live at 300 West Fairview in Harbor Springs. I've been a resident of Harbor Springs for 45 years. And my children played on that equipment that's at the beach that you would like to replace when it was in the sand. They loved it. The best part of it was that they could go in the water and then go to the playground. And then they could go back to the water or go back to the playground. They didn't have to go across town to go to the playground. Now my grandchildren have used that playground equipment. And when they walked to the beach and saw that it was gone, they cried. And they said, "Where's the playground equipment?" I said, "Well, it was underwater." And they said, "We don't care." So, you know, they just loved it. They loved the playground at the beach as much as they loved being at the beach. And I have heard a couple of comments that just appall me. I've heard, well, we've heard about the view, and I don't know who it's obstructing. It's a park. You can see through the equipment. It's nothing big and bulky. It's pipes. The other thing is that only poor kids play on playgrounds. Well, I will tell you, there are a lot of poor kids in Harbor Springs. What? A lot of poor kids in Harbor Springs. And I said, that is ridiculous. And I said, it's for all kids, all children. If you don't think Harbor Springs has some poor kids, then you haven't lived here long enough. We have a backpack program. If you haven't given out backpacks to kids every Friday afternoon that has food for the weekend, then you don't know we have poor kids. And we have a free and reduced lunch program at the school. We have a food pantry. Those are all things. These are the kids that need this. they don't have transportation somewhere else. If they are downtown and they want to play on a playground, they should be able to play on a playground. Doesn't matter whether they're poor, rich, or what they are. But that appalled me. And I think it's wonderful that the city is considering putting the playground equipment back where it was. You know, if it takes up some of the green space, so be it. Move your chair. I mean, put up an umbrella. I guess I don't get it. This is for kids. We have so little in downtown for kids. This is for kids. And I think we need to think about that.
Thank you. Maggie, you're up.
So I like having the park in the sand again. Maggie Lacey, 15 Third Street. I do like having the playground in the sand again. I think it's a tradition.
Can't do it.
I understand that, but I do want everybody to think about something, based on what Dana said, Miranda said, when we keep on adding things to these parks, it adds additional maintenance to the parks and overhead. So I'm just wanting for you guys to think about if someone is going to be donating and you're gonna have it down there, and because normally when, in the past, you just had green space or grass, people come in, and they mow the grass and they're out of there. Now that we have all these different things in place, you're having to move the tables, you're having to do this, and it's adding additional cost to our overall budget, which I'm fine with. But if you're able to move that structure someplace else where it's easy to be managed and maintenance, I think that this is something that we're not taking into consideration. So that's one of the things that I would like to, if you're going to review this again, what is the maintenance is going to cost? If someone's going to volunteer and pay for that, that's fantastic. But you're creating so much congestion in that park where everybody goes to anyway, then we need to evaluate that. How much congestion are we gonna have? How long does it take to do the maintenance around it? And nobody takes that in consideration when we're looking at budgets. So I just wanted to add that information to it. But if you had it down here, you can actually have your square space, mow around it, and it's easy to be utilized. It's not far away, and you still have access to water. And you're not infringing on the veterans area.
General manager at Pier Restaurant, downtown Harbor. While I appreciate city council getting together for a special meeting, I guess I'm just kind of, for all of you sitting up there that do all the hard work, as well as the actual employees of Harbor Springs, City of Harbor Springs, I think for many of these matters, a lot of the words that have been, flowing around right now are like foolish and ridiculous that you're having a special meeting about something like this. I also represent the DDA, and 10 years ago, the city, the chamber, and the city and the chamber, took on a role together in putting placemaking in the forefront of our minds when we made decisions in Harbor Springs or when we had events and what we did. We want to be a family-friendly city, and we also want to be a place where people gather and they come to that makes them stay there. That's the definition of placemaking, building something where people will be. As Victor said earlier, this is something that the decision that was made administratively. Just put it where the professionals and the people that have studied this, that they know what the ADA requirements are. Just put it where it needs to be and where you guys decided it should be. And I'm just here to support you.
Thank you.
With what she said in mind.
Can we get your name and address?
I'm sorry, Carolyn Candler, 151 East Summit, by the high school. With what she said in mind, I do agree that it should be left up to the experts, but I do feel that that's all the more reason why maybe they should reconsider or have the time to reconsider the exact placement. I think everybody agrees that we should have a playground for the children. I don't think anybody's against that. But I do think it should be really thoroughly thought out especially with respect to the equipment. I think a lot of the equipment, as much as my kids enjoyed it when they were little, right now, the kinds of things that kids play on are a little different. So I do think there should be some opportunity to investigate a possible change in equipment as well.
Anyone else?
Thank you. I'm Sarah McLean, 50 Washington Court. I have 3 children and we live here year round. I'm hearing a lot of what we're losing by this space, but what I would really love to shift the focus on, what are we gaining by providing this opportunity to have kids who can use this on a year-round basis, communities where parents can gather, where there's bathrooms to be able to take your kids to and from, if it's in a different location, how are we gonna be able to do that? Anytime I go to, some of these other playgrounds that don't have bathroom facilities, you're packing up everybody and you're leaving as a result. So considerations on what we can gain as a result of having this opportunity to be able to have a play structure where children can play, where families can gather, where grandparents are it's easy to access, so we're not having to walk through the sand and all those different pieces as well. So I understand that the idea of, would it be great to have a new space with an innovative new playground for our kids to, would we love to invest in that? Absolutely. However, we all know what the circumstances are when it comes to finances and what that would look like. So, in the light of don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, I think that there's a lot of good that can be gained by having this, an opportunity for us young families to have that space. We have that room right here.
Well, thank you. Ladies, Karen?
Karen Stroud Donnelly, 644 Ann Street. I've lived here for 30 years, like many others in this room. My kids used to play in the playground. It was a great asset. I don't think anybody wants to lose the playground. I don't think that's the purpose of this meeting, is to lose the playground. I'm a member of the Harbor Commission, and we're ready to approve a final harbor plan, an updated harbor plan. And one of the goals we have is to provide views towards the water and from the water. And my only concern would be any loss of view or some of the green space. We don't have that many places where people can get clear views of the water. We have Zorn Park, we have east of the Harbor Master Building, and then there's all the private commercial businesses there. You kind of peek between the buildings, and then down to Soul Street, to the Soul Street Beach. So I'm just really leery of losing that, even though I'm sure you can see through some of that equipment, because it's not a huge, one-piece deal. I still think that it could potentially obstruct that view. So it'd be kind of contrary to what we're trying to achieve with the harbor plan. And I also think that if people are concerned about having, the kids access to water and the playground, this area could be, by City Hall, could be a possible option from Zoll Street. Of course, you have streets across, so that's an issue. So I guess all I'm saying is, some of the comments were made, try to move it a little further east, to the other side of the canyon, maybe make it narrower and deeper so that you minimize the loss of the view. So that's really what I'm suggesting here. Do what we can to maintain our views. We don't have that many of them. Thank you.
How about in the back?
Also, point that I live at 151 East Bluff Drive. There was a description, I swam on that beach when I was a kid, as did my granddad, as did my father. And all 4 of my children swam on it. I'm a big fan of it. I'm not convinced that so basically I totally buy into the fact that kids need a play structure, having run a bunch of them through it. But I'm not convinced the placement is right. And I also have it, I'm led to believe that the donor doesn't think it belongs there either. I believe that's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess Lisa in the back.
Lisa
Then I'll get you.
Nichols, 38 West Bluff Drive. Yeah, Rachel, you mentioned that the other side of Zorn, so North Zorn, wouldn't be appropriate because it slopes. And I was just walking that way the other day or today.
And it seems like if we do the individual pieces, they could still sit in that area, because that's a big open area. In fact, there's trees way out, and if we keep it kind of down near the water area and the sidewalk, there's a huge, big open area there that people don't really use very often. And then I guess, you know, we have drinking water available there, and we have bathrooms available there, and it's near the water. Secondly, I guess I also agree down here might be nice because it is a huge area with drinking water, bathrooms, and the parking, and we have the deer park here, and it kind of incorporates that with things that the kids like to see and do, and Zoll Beach is right down the way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Rowe. I've lived here 30 years, and I raised 3 daughters here, 2 stepdaughters, and now I have 3 grandchildren. And one of the issues that I have is that I live right downtown. My kids, they live here. They've moved here, are starting to raise their family. And the issue is when we come downtown, we bring the kids. We do a family event. Sometimes we want to go to dinner. The kids want to play in the park. It's an all-encompassing activity. That's all day, every day. We want to help the kids to be part of the family group, part of the town. The problem that I see with this moving the park to here, we have parks. We have the school playground. We have other parks. We have a park over on Lake Street, Lake and Hoyt. I mean, it's nice to have something downtown. If my daughter wants to take the baby to the beach and I can go to the playground with the kids, we can all hang out. If my daughter and their kids want to go out to dinner, she and her husband and the kids want to go out to dinner, they want to walk downtown, they can hang out. There's nothing for children to do here. I mean, I'm raising kids here. I know we can only walk downtown so many times, get ice cream, go to the beach. It would be nice to have a playground too. And any one of us who've lived in an urban area, we know that a park is a really nice anchor. We could, I mean, I'm assuming there will be benches or seats somewhere where the adults can actually sit. I mean, it's a nice place for young parents to go with the children, for grandmas to go with the children. I mean, it's a nice socializing spot too. So moving the park to a spot like this, or the playground, I should say, this is you have to make a plan to come to this park if you put the playground here. You couldn't be downtown with the kids and say, Dad, let's go to the park, Mom, you shop, or whatever. You can't split up and still be a part of the community. It doesn't work. So, and I think we're always trying to focus on bringing new people in. And I have my daughter, she has friends moving back. We have daughters and sons bringing their families here. They want to be able to stay in town, to be a part of this town, to go to the park, take their kids to the park, go to the beach. And yes, we have limited water access, but I mean, the kids are the lifeblood of this town for all of us. And I just think it's important to embrace that. And I think it would be really nice to welcome youth to this community. And I do think the simplicity of a playground, you know, whether there's some discussion in terms of the design, I think this seems like it's been well researched. I mean, again, I think it's important we have the park right near the beach downtown so we can all go there together. Thank you.
Barry Wascarded, 425 Cottage Lane, Harbor Springs. So it just seems kind of foolish that we're complaining about 2,700 square feet when 80% of the waterfront is commercial and marine. And really, we're trying to just put back the playground that was taken. So, I mean, I just feel like that we keep saying that we want to try to bring in families in town, and without a draw to do that, it's really not going to be possible. So I think also if you want a better representation of year-round people, that for younger families, that having a meeting at 3:30 during the workday is probably not the best time. And I think you would get more buy-in and more representation, you know, if this was after working hours, so.
I know I've already spoken. This is my first city.
No.
Oh, I can't take it again?
No, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
just one time.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Betsy Saul, and I live within the Harbor Springs area here. I'm a resident, and listening to everybody, I know we all want a park here and would love to see that equipment back, but I love the idea that this lady brought up. Could you give the park board one more week to think it over after listening to everybody's comments? And it might be just one way to move it over or make it fall or to do something. One thing, I use that park a lot with my grandchildren, excuse me, and I've used it for years, and I've also, when the equipment's there and when it's not there. And I think taking that green space, if you see how the beach, all the people on the beach are, I'll go on the far end of the other, where it used to be, that is packed with people, packed. But then when you get over towards the Wallstrom Marine, there's nobody there. And they just, people, I don't know why people don't even go over there, because there's quite a nice area over there. But that great big area there, on the grassy area, with people who are sitting with umbrellas and eating their picnics and things like that. So I would like to see the park equipment back, but I think we ought to give the park people another thought now that they've listened to some things and seen a plan the way it is. I hope you can give them another week. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Perfect. How about the kids? Any comment from the kids back there? No, no way. No way. All right.
All right, council, I guess it's discussion up to you. I'll just say a few comments just from some of what I've heard. I think it's good to remember that this conversation here is not about which park should have a playground equipment. This playground equipment was at this park. It was taken out of safety concerns, and we're putting it back at the same park that it was approved at. It's a different location for a variety of reasons that we explained. So it's not about, this conversation is not about whether it should be at this park or that park or this park. Staff, we have one task, and that was to relocate the existing playground equipment that was at that park, back at that park in a safe manner. And that's what we're doing. Other things, there were some ideas about locating it here or there, and staff frankly has spent many months looking at the location and looking at the different possible locations of that park. One thing we have to keep in mind is that we can't put it too close to sidewalks and other buildings because there's setbacks that we have to follow. That's within too close to the right of way. So we have to design it in a way that meets all our own codes as well. You put it too close to the east end, aside from having to fill it in and grade it, you have to consider how far away it is from the buildings. We have, I think 15-foot setbacks. I'm not sure exactly how many feet setback we have there, but we have setbacks that we have to follow there. Another thing is we talked about having to fill it, having to, get new equipment maybe. That costs money, and we don't have the revenue coming in for that. So we have a donated money here to reinstall existing equipment. So we're not doing anything new or anything different. We're just shifting a location. Someone made the comment that this is the size of a house. No, it's the blueprint of a house. It's not the size of a house. A house has 2,700 square feet of volume. And I think many people have also said this, in my opinion, we put that playground there, equipment there for a reason. There's something for kids to do downtown. To take that playground equipment outside of downtown does not make sense. It was there, it's going back there. So putting it elsewhere does not make sense. As far as lifeguards being babysitters, the reason why you don't want that playground equipment is the closer it is to water. Yes, it's the lifeguards' priority to look at what's happening in the water, but with so many kids gathered in that spot, they have to be looking there because they don't know a kid might fall in the water, especially if the water's higher. And so then they have to be looking at what's happening at the playground equipment on the beach, not just what's happening straight in front of them at the water. As far as open space, yes, we might lose some open space here on the green spot. You've just gained a lot of open space on the beach now. So you've exchanged some open space for another open space. And yeah, I've seen people there extended all the way down far the west end of the beach now. People are relaxing for more isolation, more privacy. They go all the way on the far end. So you gain some and you lose some. I think there's a good comment about what are we gaining here, and there's a lot to be gained. And yes, there's things will be lost. There won't be the same exact view. But think about the view the kids will have from on top of the slide or in the swing set. I mean, the kids' views matter too, right? So when this comes down to it, this is really, as I mentioned earlier, staff decision, the professionals made this decision. Policy decision of having a playground equipment there was already made several years ago, several decades ago. That decision has been made. Now it's a matter of making it safe and trusting the judgment of staff that every time a citizen has an opinion, that's great, but they're not the professionals when it comes to designing it. So their opinions matter. But when it comes to managing and administrating our property and our ordinances and our rules and our policies the council puts in place, that's for staff to do. And I think we need to respect that division and have a little faith and professional judgment of someone who's been working in DPW for over 2 decades, someone who's been working in parks for a decade. I think we need to have that respect of their professional judgment. So I'll pass it on to council after that.
All right, thank you. Well, what do you think, gang?
What do I think? Well, I'm questioning, I don't think it's council's decision. I don't. It's very clear where those decisions are supposed to be made. I appreciate all the input from everybody, but I do agree that we had given that responsibility, not we, this council, but in the zoning code to someone else. And for us to second guess them, I'm struggling with that a little. I wouldn't want them to second guess me once I make a decision that's under the council's rule. So I'm struggling with us even weighing in on it, really, at this point.
John?
Well, we called the meeting, I think, out of a concern for feedback that we were receiving. And given the fact that it's been discussed over many months, that different people have looked at it at different times, that the professionals whom I trust have come up with the solution. And I think if we went down that rabbit hole, would have answers for all of the questions about why not here and why not there and why is it this size and why is it that size. Talking to Rachel this morning, I feel they answered all those in their determination and their proposal to put it where it is. I very much like the idea. Throughout all of the boards and commission meetings that I go to and the council meetings, we talk about families. We talk about the charm of Harbor Springs. We talk about inclusion, having, and it's been, I could not do as good a job as others have done about having an attraction downtown for families and children. That's what we're talking about. Will we have a marginal loss of a view? Maybe. You're looking through a playground. I've looked through thousands of playgrounds and it's never bothered me. And you'd lose a view of what from that park? The water across the harbor and the point. I think that's way outweighed by the opportunity to provide a value to families and children downtown. I think the right decision was made, and I agree. I think we should support the professionals who made it.
I would agree with that. I think, initially there were some concerns about lack of transparency and us sneaking around behind people's back to do this park. But we put it, the council put it in the Parks Board's hand, city's hand, or the city management's hand 2 years ago. And I think they've done a good job of laying this out. I don't think the other moving it's a good idea. There's a compromise. You pick up some water view, you lose some water view. So we can't put it back in the sand. I think we stick with the park's recommendation. I got nothing to add. I'm good. That's so good. All right, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.